Did anyone else have this reaction watching The Long Walk? When Cooper Hoffman, the star of this movie, is on screen, it's so uncanny how much he looks like his father, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I thought that at the same time when I watched Licorice Pizza. In this movie, I felt it even more. I don't know what it was, but there's a way that this guy holds himself. There's a way that he composes himself, the way he puts emphasis on certain words, how he decides to do a physical movement in that moment. There's like a scene where he's kind of just hugging his body like that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's just kind of how I pictures Philip Seymour Hoffman in my head. It's kind of an incredible performance out of Cooper Hoffman in The Long Walk. And that's kind of what I want to focus about today in my review of The Long Walk, because I do believe the most important aspect of The Long Walk is the actors. This is a story that essentially follows a totalitarian regime that has taken over America. And to boost morale, basically every year they participate in something called the Long Walk. There are a certain amount of young men who are drafted to participate in the Long Walk and have to go through, and basically the way to win this competition is you have to keep your speed of 3 miles per hour. If you don't, you are executed on sight, and the last person standing wins. That is the premise of this movie. So this is a movie that is action, quite literally, in the fact that this movie is always moving. This could become a very repetitive movie very quickly. The reason it's not is due to the strength of the lead actors in this movie. And I really want to highlight these two, Cooper Hoffman and David Jonsson. And I do just think that is the success of this movie. It is the smart casting of people in these roles to keep you engaged in this hour 40 runtime, which is a movie that doesn't let up. That's the most impressive aspect of this movie, along with the actors, is the fact that this movie starts grueling and it ends grueling. You are always on the move with these characters. And the fact that this movie is able to keep this pace and keep this momentum is kind of very impressive. And I want to give some credit to JT Molnar, who is the screenplay writer of this movie, because this could, like I said, become very repetitive. And it's the fact that you care about enough of these boys going through this journey, and that's what keeps you involved. This movie is all exposition. This is all characters talking about their understanding of the world, how everything that has led them to this moment has guided them, their relationships with one another, their guilt, their shame, their pain, their trauma, all of that. The actors are just so game for this performance. David Jonsson, who I've been a big fan of since seeing him in Alien Romulus, I think he is close to outstanding in that movie. Same thing with The Long Walk. I think David Jonsson is just a hell of an actor. I've been so impressed with him in his young career. I think he has all the game in the world. I think he is super charismatic. I love watching this guy at the forefront of a film. He's excellent in this movie, and he carries so much of the emotional weight as you're with this character and you're with the Cooper Hoffman character going on this grueling journey as these two men have to basically keep their spirits together, and the friendship is built in the most unlikely of places. You care about this friendship. That is what allows this movie to work, is that you care about the dynamics of our main characters. It's something that Stephen King books, when they usually are adapted well, it's that aspect that always works. It's the same thing with the It movies, where what works about those movies is the dynamics of those main characters and how they interact. I think that's when Stephen King is strongest as a writer, is how well he can nail that camaraderie feeling. And I think The Long Walk, the movie, does this very well. This comes from us from Francis Lawrence. For those who do not know him, he has been in the Lionsgate system for quite a while. He's been a director over at Lionsgate Studio. He's been doing the Hunger Games for basically the past decade. He's had a few small projects here and there since then, but he is somebody that is so ingrained in this dystopian world. This is his most darkest approach to this. And I think he's really capable at playing in these types of settings. His direction is pretty strong in this movie. And again, I think this is a movie that could feel very repetitive very often due to the fact that we're just watching these characters walk for miles and miles and miles. what he is able to do is he knows when to break the tension. He knows when to have scenes of humor. He knows when the scenes have to be grueling, and he also never lets up in his relentlessness. There is a nastiness to this movie that I think is present in a lot of Stephen King's works, but it is very present in this one, and I think Francis Lawrence is very comfortable diving into it. Now, The Long Walk is a thinly veiled allegory for Vietnam, I would say. Stephen King wrote this at the University of Maine in the late 60s. This is, I believe, his first real novel that he wrote, even though this one got published way later in his career. And that is what this movie is about. It is talking about the draft. It is talking about the military. It is talking about men being drafted into something pointless that is set there to die for the glory of America, when there is nothing to be found glorious in what these people are doing. So that is something that I think really works and is delivered in this movie, is this whole idea of what it is, this totalitarian regime that has taken over. I really liked that aspect of the movie. You don't need to know a lot about this world, but you do need to know that we are in a dystopian America that is taken over by authoritarianism and is taken over where the army is just relentless and cruel to men. It is the sins that we put on young men. One of the reasons I struggled with this aspect is the Colonel character, or I believe he is actually a major in this movie, who is the antagonist character. He is the man representing the army. This character is played by Mark Hamill, obviously an actor I love. I love Luke Skywalker. I think Mark Hamill is quite a talented actor. I just don't think he has it necessarily in this movie. I don't think he gives a bad performance, per se, but I wanted something a little bit more intimidating. I wanted something a little bit more cruel. There are specific scenes of showdowns that are supposed to be happening with the major character and the rest of the young men on this long walk. I just think I wanted something a little bit more from it. I don't know if I wanted more of the traditional military type and Ed Harris type actor in this role, but something was missing, and the main antagonist really didn't help this movie. I think that's where I have some of my political struggles with this movie, what it is trying to say. I think that's where it gets a little muddled. The movie is very obvious in what it is trying to say. I just don't think the meanness is all the way communicated in the Mark Hamill character. Now, that is not to say that this meanness of this movie is not in this movie by its source material. It is definitely there. There is some just harsh cruelty in this movie that is staggering. That's what, again, I think this movie really succeeds. But when this movie is at its best is when it's focusing on the Cooper Hoffman character and the David Jonsson character going on this, I will call it, journey, for lack of a better word. And everyone else of these young boys or young men are really good. Specifically Ben Wang, who some people may know from American Born Chinese. He was also in the Karate Kid Legends movie earlier this summer. I think he's especially great. He is the comedic persona of this movie. He's the character that made me laugh the most. And that's also the heartbreaking aspect of this movie, is seeing a bunch of these characters that you know, that by very premise that is laid out of this movie, you just know some of these characters are going to die along the journey, if not most of them. So there's just a lot of great stuff from these actors doing a lot of great heavy lifting. Roman Griffin Davis, who some of you may know as the lead from Jojo Rabbit, I also think this is another case. He's in this movie. He's really good in it. It's just all these really impressive young actors coming together and making something that I don't know if it ever hits special per se, but I do think it is able to be very captivating, very watchable, and a movie that I would recommend you going to see. I quite like The Long Walk. I think it is a journey worth going on. I am going to give this movie 3 out of 5 stars. So make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thank you to everyone who watched this review, and we'll be back later for more.